The Obama administration has been out of power for almost a year, but we're still finding little Easter eggs of scandal scattered around the front lawn of Washington. At the request of Attorney General Jeff Sessions, DOJ officials are interviewing FBI agents about the Uranium One deal in an attempt to determine if another special counsel is warranted to keep investigating that. Meanwhile, Congress is asking the Department of Justice to turn over all documents and communications related to an alleged multi-year effort under the last administration to basically give some space to Hezbollah to sell drugs internationally, including in this country, in order to make sure the Iran deal went through. Philippe Reims is a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State. He was a longtime advisor to Hillary Clinton, and he joins us tonight. So, Philippe, both these stories, I think it's possible to overstate their significance, but at their core, both of them have important elements. So start with Uranium One. And I'll just concede you're a former Hillary spokesman. I don't think she's necessarily the villain of the story.
Thank you for the concession.
No, I think she is a villain in the story. But the Obama administration allowed Russia, a Russian-controlled company, control over some large percentage of our uranium reserves. Like, that's kind of beyond dispute. Why was that ever a good idea? And why is no one in the press asking a really simple question like, why'd you allow that to happen?
Well, I think they did, and there's a process for that. It's called CFIUS.
Yes, I know.
It's any time that any asset of the United States that has a national security implication is to be sold to a foreign element, it has to go through a very rigorous review. Now, the Secretary of State and the State Department are part of that, but there are 9 departments and ultimately the President. Now, in this case, we can get into the real nitty-gritty of it, but we were not turning over the keys to the uranium kingdom. It passed muster, and we were no less.
The responsibility was diffuse, I'll concede. But
it's not diffuse. It's with 9 different cabinets.
9 different agencies. It's not just one agency. That's the point. But they're all within the same administration. But the macro question remains unanswered, which is the Russian government wound up with control over uranium deposits in Wyoming, in the United States. If you consider Russia our chief strategic rival, then why would you ever allow that? Like, why is that a good idea? I don't understand.
Well, they were buying into a Canadian company.
Correct.
It was a Canadian company.
Well, we could have stopped it. The Obama people could have stopped it.
We could have, and obviously the people who looked at this, who have nothing at stake other than what's in the best interests of our national security, determined that this did not in any way impede that.
But given that we know that there's never been an adversary more terrifying or dangerous to American democracy than Vladimir Putin, who literally haunts the dreams of 50% of the people in Washington, why haven't
disagreement here.
I'm saying that sarcastically because I don't actually think he's the gravest threat to American national security, but every Democrat thinks that, and yet they allowed him control over our uranium. Why haven't they apologized?
There's nothing to apologize for.
Okay, so how can he simultaneously...
The person who owes an apology writ large is Vladimir Putin to all of us for what he's done to our democracy in the last year.
Okay, so he's evil, you say, but simultaneously you say it's okay that the Obama people allowed him control of our uranium.
It's why we have a very rigorous process, whether the president's name is Obama or Trump or Bush or Clinton, to make sure that we are in no way turning over assets that should not be in foreign hands. There's a reason why it's such a rigorous process.
Assets, I think we
because
both
it was
agree.
Determined that this Canadian company...
Right, but it was the wrong decision, obviously.
Well, that's...
So why shouldn't the people who made it apologize and say, yes, I imperiled American national security by my lack of wisdom, by my foolishness, my short-sightedness. I didn't understand how dangerous Russia was. I'm part of the problem. I apologize. They do that in Japan. Why aren't they doing it here?
I don't know who that would be. I know that's not me.
The 9 heads of those agencies,
I know it's not
Secretary
me.
Clinton.
Well, no, Secretary Clinton didn't roll up her sleeves and get into the, like, let's look at the uranium.
But her agency signed off on it. She should apologize, no?
No.
No. Okay, no apologies.
No.
All right.
Not on Uranium One.
I kind of sensed you were going to say that.
No, not on Uranium One, no.
Huh. So what about the other question this evening, and that is the Politico piece that pretty much demonstrates that Treasury Department and DEA officials were stymied in their efforts to control Hezbollah's international money laundering and drug dealing operations. These are not partisan right-wingers. These are people who worked for the Obama administration. They're saying our goals were sublimated because of the Iran deal. I don't see why that's not a scandal. It seems like a scandal to me.
Well, I think, first off, most people, including in the Obama administration, didn't know where this came from. When you look at these stories, there are 2 people. They may not be crazy out there, right-wing, whatever you want to call them, but they have been vociferously against the Iran deal from the beginning.
There are dozens of people in
the two primary sources in there, but
the author said there were dozens of people, a lot of them Democrats, all of them Obama employees, who said.
Well, there are four on-the-record sources today in the Washington Post for the CIA, the NSC, the White House, and for the State Department, saying that this didn't happen, that you would never in a million years do anything to impede.
Okay, then there are people who obviously don't, and they may be right.
Let's look into it.
Wait, let's look into it. So
okay
the allegation is made by Obama staffers, former Obama staffers, that cocaine was sold in this country, narcotics, because the Obama people allowed it to be, because they didn't want to.
I really doubt that.
Deal. All right.
I doubt that.
But you would have no problem with an investigation
I have no problem
to get to the
with
bottom of it.
investigating. I have a problem with what's turning into interference and intimidation. And I think what we're seeing, it's one thing. Right. You have news sources. I have my news sources. We go back at night. We have our separate corners.
This is political.
But we have to share. No, but with something like investigations, we can't fight over the FBI.
Well, I agree, and
that's what's happening now.
But they shouldn't be partisan.
But
you know what I mean?
Well, but what's happening, and I think the common ground here is that Comey definitely did a number on the FBI, but they are now caught in some kind of divorced parents tug of war.
I'm being told we have to go, but I agree with you on that. Philippe, thank you. Is she a left-wing activist, or could she be a Russian spy? Congress wants to investigate Jill Stein of the Green Party for possible collusion with Vladimir Putin, believe it or not. She joins us next.